Hi, I'm Ashy, and today I'm going to be doing a master study of Monet. So I'm going to use this inspiration photo and try to interpret that with watercolors. So obviously the techniques are going to vary, and I'm going to have to kind of figure out my way with it since it's watercolor instead of oil, but I think it's going to be super fun. So let's dive in and see how it goes. So I'm working in my sketchbook here, and this is 100% cotton paper, and so it's their Academy line, which is the student grade, but it's still 100% cotton, still 300 gram and acid free, all of that. And this is a 6.2 by 9.4 sketchbook, and then I just have it flipped over here because I'm working on this page and it just makes it easier to have it flipped this way, and then I'm not putting my hand on the other page, getting oils on there. So now I just have to kind of decide how I want to go about this, because obviously Monet is an oil painter. So I'm actually using my kid's tablet here, but I just took a picture of one of his paintings. And he's an oil painter, so it's different in terms of texture and approach and all of that. So with watercolor, we're gonna work light to dark. In oil, you can work dark to light. A lot of times there's underpaintings, all of that. So I'm gonna start with just figuring out kind of the basic shapes, sketching in what I want with just a really large brush. So this is a size 16 round. So I'm not trying to be like delicate or anything right here. And I'm just gonna use kind of a grayish blue that's left over in my mixing well here. And this has browns, paints gray, indigo, ultramarine. It's got, I don't know, tons, all sorts of blues and neutrals in there. And then we're just gonna kind of sketch out our general shapes here. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the horizon line. So I'm gonna put that up the top kind of third of the page here. And this is gonna be the sky against the ocean here. And then we're gonna get some cliffs in on this side. Okay. And then we have another kind of layer of cliff jutting out here. So kind of getting the top portion of that, and then it comes out this way into some land, and then this cliff we're gonna see like the cliff wall also. Just a nice jagged little cliff wall there. Okay, so there's a basic sketch. When I do landscapes like this, they're loose, and I'm just going for very general shapes. I'm not doing anything super extreme with the sketching, and I like to go just straight in with watercolor, just a really light wash to keep it nice and loose. Now I'm gonna take some cerulean blue for the sky. And I'm mixing that over here in this gray well, so it's gonna be toned down a little bit, but I wanna add a little bit of pink also. Maybe some alizarin crimson. Let's see. Okay. Clean up this well. This one's alizarin crimson, so it's like a cool red, but not quite as cool as like the permanent rose, which really is a lot more pink. Okay. And then I'm gonna have a paper towel here just in case I wanna do lifting with the paper towel to get some clouds. I haven't decided yet. Okay, a little bit of the pink in. And I'm just kind of dabbing that toward the horizon line, blending it out, dabbing that under some of the cloud areas, just to get some variety. And then we'll put in some stronger cerulean, nice and watery as well. Okay. Just gonna dry off the brush and kind of blend out around some of those cloud shapes. Do a little bit of lifting with the brush. I think I put in a different blue there, that's okay. Okay, let's add some blobs of water to force some of the pigment away and create some more little clouds. And it's just gonna be a nice, soft sky. And I'll take the paper towel and kind of scrunch it up and lift just a little bit along some of the edges. There we go. Okay, there's my sky. Now I'm gonna go into the water part. And so looking at my reference photo here, I see that toward the back, there's some darker blues and then it shifts more to like these greenish blues. And then here it's really like purples and greens and grays. So I'm gonna try to do a lot of variety through the water and follow those general color temperatures. So I'm gonna start wet on dry and I'm gonna get my the darker blue I'm gonna use is Prussian blue. It still leans a little bit toward green versus like an ultramarine that leans more toward purple. And then as I move over into the more green areas, I'm gonna use probably some aqua green, maybe some cobalt green deep, but we'll just kind of see where my brush goes to basically. Okay, so putting some of that on the page. This is the Prussian blue, right toward the back. Come up and bring a little bit of the aquas in. Okay, and I'm gonna leave some white of the paper by doing some dry brushing. Okay, now I wanna get some kind of purples. I don't know what purple this is. It's Windsor Violet. I had taped up my swatches and they just fell down. Anyway, so I'm gonna put in some Windsor Violet in here. Again, using some dry brushing and letting them bump in together. So I'm gonna add some of that violet even back here to the background. And then there's just a lot of variety. There's grays and greens. So I'm gonna add, this is just messy, well, greens basically. So I'm gonna add some of those and it's gonna make it go a little bit neutral there, going between the purples and the greens. Okay, get a little bit more blue in there. Okay. get a little bit more darkness up on the horizon line again. And it's still wet in the sky, so it is bleeding up a little bit, but I'm not very worried about it because it's supposed to be kind of impressionistic and not super well defined. Now I'm adding some much more intense strokes here of the aqua green deep, which is this really, really pretty color. Okay. And then it's going into wet washes, so it's blending out a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna do the same with some of the purple. So add some more intense strokes here. And I'm purposefully adding some of this into some areas that are starting to dry to get some blooms. Okay. Now I'm going to take a smaller brush, so size 8 round, and add in some drops of water because he has some little white, like I'm assuming sailboats here. That was a lot. That was a lot wetter spot, so you see how it exploded a lot more. And so just adding little drops of water really can create some white space there, which then we can go back into later and do some details on. Okay, kind of blend back out some of the edges. Got those areas up. Okay, now this is kind of drying, so I'm going to add little strokes of clean water here for the same reason, but I'm trying to be a little bit more precise. So right there, it was already dry, so it didn't do anything, but over here, it pushed away the pigment. So some areas it's going to do stuff and some areas it's not, because the drying time is variable based on where I added some of those extra strokes and all of that. Okay, that's nice and messy. Okay, so now we'll kind of clean up this horizon line just a little bit. Just a damp brush, one quick stroke across. I'm gonna work on this back cliff really quick. So we have the lit side will be on the right, and then the dark side where it's the actual like rocky part, not the grassy part, will be on this side. So I'm gonna take some of my same colors that I used in the rest of the painting. So I have my reds, my blues, my greenish, okay? And as I mix them, it will create a bit of a neutral color, but like not a boring neutral. And it will tie in the rest of the painting as well. Okay. Oops. And then for the top, I'm gonna do some green. So I'm gonna take my aqua green that I used in the water and add some ochre, yellow ochre to it to make it a more like grassy colored green. And I'm going to add that in to the cliff, getting a little bit more yellow ochre for along the edges. To get some variety in that color. So just different concentrations of that mixture. Okay, a little bit of clean water splatters to create some texture there. Bleed that down and around.
Yep.
Now I'm going to use a lot more of this yellow ochre here for this cliff, but then there's going to be like a lot of like flowers coming out too. So I'm kind of doing a wash of this yellow over the cliff. And then I'm going to splatter in some of these purples. And tap a few. Okay, and then some pinks. Also.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I'm going to take some of the greens and kind of tap those in too. So this is again that aqua green.
Good.
Okay, and then to think about where the figures are going to be, and I'm going to add in some clean water and lift a little bit. And this is kind of staining on these blues, so I'm not going to be able to lift all of it, but that's okay. Just kind of lighten that area up a little bit. Okay. And as I come forward, it's going to keep getting a little warmer.
That. And back. Yep. Yeah. That's key.
Now I'm just splattering in a lot of these pinks and purples up here in the foreground to get these bleeds. And then I'm going to splatter in a little bit more yellow ochre as well. Tap it in too. And kind of force some bleeding upward by tilting the page. Okay. There's some bright oranges in there too, in the original, that I think is a cool little touch. So I'm going to add some oranges as well, but I'm going to mute them down a little bit by adding some of the yellow ochre. And I'll add some more of that when it's dry too, so that it stands out a little bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to go back in and add some more defined strokes of color into the ocean, just to get some more definition. And then just kind of zigzagging my brush around.
Rocks.
And I'm using the same colors that I used initially, just in a much more concentrated form. Okay, a little bit of dry brushing as well, just to bring in some more texture and really get that like watercolor texture feel versus trying to really emulate the oil texture. Oops, that was dark. Lift a little bit there. Okay, so now I need to build up some more texture in the grasses here in the hill. So I'm gonna get some of my mixes here and just dry brush up. Need to get a little bit more vibrancy. And just paint some single strokes coming up over the water in a much more concentrated form of my yellow ochre to go over, because yellow ochre is pretty opaque, so you can go over the water there somewhat. Maybe a few of those bright orange strokes as well. Okay, let's add some purples in. Some more yellow. Okay, I'm gonna splatter in some greens. And maybe some purples as well. Okay, get a little bit more texture up into this middle brown hill here. So some blues, some greens, need some more ochre. Okay, do some little grassy textures right on the edge here. Okay, some greens for maybe some stems of the leaves and some more grasses on this front edge. Add in a little bit of concentrated green into this. It's wet, so it is going to bleed out, but it's more concentrated, so it's not going to bleed out super far. Okay. This swatch will be a little bit more purple. Okay, let's make this hill, or this underside of this cliff now. And as we come down toward the top of this, I need to do some negative painting to keep some of those grassy textures there. So leaving just a little bit of the, it's not exactly white space, but sort of white space. Adding just a little bit of yellow ochre in to warm that up even a little bit more. So now I let this dry and I'm adding a little bit more color on top of that cliff part with that yellow ochre. I'm gonna do the same for this the back cliff one, the back cliff area. Just dab a little bit more yellow ochre and a little bit more blue. I'm going to tap it down to fill in some of that white space there. Okay. Now I think I'm going to splatter some more of my pinks. So I'm going to cover my water part here. Just kind of not super precisely. That's not Elizabeth Crimson. Try again. There we go. And I do want it to be fairly bright, vivid colors and not too huge of splatters. So I'm using thicker paint. Okay, then back in here. And the closer you go to the page, the more like clustered the splatters are gonna be. And then the farther, the more spread out they're gonna be. And I really want them to be clustered up here. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with some purple up in the foreground. And maybe a little bit of purple into the back mid-ground there also. And then a little bit of the orange as well. Okay. We get some more of my green mixed up here. And get in some more grassy strokes in the middle here. Some dry brushing. And it's pulling in some of those splatters as well that I did. So just even more variety and texture. Now this is pretty like muddy, right? With all of these colors blended together. But I'm looking at the reference photo and, you know, it is very neutral in the foreground as well. So I'm okay with that. And then back here, it's more vibrant. So I think that that works. Now I'm gonna get the figures in here. So he had kind of a pinkish peach colored umbrella. So we're gonna put that in. And I will probably have to go in with some whitewash to get in some highlights. Okay. I'm going to use a little bit of that same color for the dress. Of the figure, because we'll do that to pull it in. And then maybe a little bit of this color for the second figure as well. Maybe a little bit of greens. I'm kind of putting some purples in that'll be shadows once I add the whites in. Okay, the white's gonna really make those pop because you can't really see them right now, but that's okay. Now I'm gonna add a few little shadows. I already sort of added some, but I'm gonna add some more shadows kind of around where my boats will be. To be a little bit more precise on that. And same thing, I'll add the boats with white wash and probably add some white into the ocean too. Okay, let me add a few little spots of warmth and texture along the edge of this cliff here. And then same, coming off the edge here, just a little bit more texture. And grassiness. Okay. Now let me get out that whitewash. I'm going to go straight from the tube so that it's nice and vibrant. Actually, I have bleed-proof white that I haven't tried yet. So I'm going to try that.
Okay. Well.
So this is Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed-proof white. And we're gonna try that out. And I'm gonna get a smaller brush so that I can do some details here. I'll just use this one. Okay. So this is a squirrel hair brush, but we're gonna try it out and see if I can make some figures look like actual people. Okay, so we're gonna have the hat here. And then we're gonna put some highlights on the shirt. And then we're gonna make a skirt. There you go. Now that is a little bit wet right there that I'm going into, so that's why it's kind of bleeding out just a little bit. Okay. Then some highlights on the umbrella. Okay, hat. And then a few strokes for the dresses. Okay, now for sailboats, I'm just gonna do like little dabs of white. Okay, now just a few little marks in the ocean where the waves would be kind of peaking.
This is
And as I get further out, I'm getting thinner and flatter also. Okay. Maybe a few little highlights on some of the grasses. Okay, a couple little spots of white, maybe some more flowers in there. Okay, now I'm going to go back in and brighten up my umbrella a little bit. Just a little bit more of the alizarin crimson. And then a little bit more of that in the dress. Just like there's a little bit of a pattern on it. Okay. There we go. Okay, now I have this errant splatter up here that I'm going to turn into a bird, so I'm just going to take some more blue and then just kind of pull that out, and then maybe add another smaller one back in the horizon a little bit. There we go. All right, and there is my version of, I don't remember what this painting is called. Okay, so here's my version of Cliff Walk at Pourville by Claude Monet in watercolor instead of oil. So it's definitely a loose interpretation, but it was very fun to play with. Here's that completed painting again. So I was really happy with how this turned out. I love the vivid colors. I love just the looseness of it. I think that it really gives that vibe of impressionism at its finest. And I loved taking the inspiration from Monet's colors because I'm typically not this loose with my colors. And I just love how it turned out. I like the kind of purples and blues in the hills. I think that looks so cool. And I did try to limit my color palette with this too, which is why I didn't use any like true neutrals except for yellow ochre, which in my opinion is a neutral. But you know, so I didn't use a brown for the cliffs or a gray. And so I really like how that turned out. I think that this was a really fun exercise, and I definitely plan on doing more master studies in the future. I'll probably keep completing them in my sketchbooks because, you know, they're not my paintings. They're not complete finished paintings. So I'll probably keep using the sketchbook and do a few more along with whatever else I do in the sketchbook. But I can definitely use some of these techniques and skills that I learned from this master study, such as, you know, the color applications, the wet on dry application, to get some more, you know, sharp edges between the colors. And then, you know, letting that feed into some of the more wet on wet and wet on damp techniques to get some of the texture. So I think that I will use some of these skills in some of my paintings as well, but definitely do more master studies going forward. So I just want to say thank you again for watching. And if you made it this far, I just want to thank you an extra time because I know that your time's important and I appreciate that you chose to spend it with me today. Let me know your favorite artist in the comments and maybe I can look it up and use inspiration from your favorite artists as well. Have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.